In this podcast, you get a real-life glimpse into a student's transformation. I take you into the actual coaching sessions, week by week, and you can see the student's progress in real time. So without further ado, here is AGL Live. Hey Eddie, what's up? Pretty good, how are you?
Yeah. Alright. Did you just get back from work or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 6 p.m.
You work on Saturdays?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I usually
Okay.
work on the weekend.
Yeah. Okay.
So how's the last week been?
So it's been pretty tough. It's just to keep you up to date. I've broken up with New.
Yeah.
And it's been really tough actually. Like, I've been on sleeping pills, every night just trying to fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
And, I actually tried to go out last night again, and I think this is what really shattered my confidence, because I tried to go out last night, with a wing that I hadn't met yet. I just, we just contacted each other on, online,
Mm-hmm.
and, I couldn't do it, like, because I haven't gamed for like a year and a half now.
Mm-hmm.
So just like waiting in line and everything was just so tough. And I mean, this is completely the opposite of what I was after Vegas, right? Like, just going to nightclubs was no issue at all, and I was doing just all these socially breaking rules and things like that. But that just really made it hard. And I'm still like contacting her and everything. We sort of just so what happened during the week was so on Tuesday, was it Monday or Tuesday? She basically, I was at the gym, and then she sent me like, "Oh, I love you," kind of a text. This is when we hadn't broken up yet.
Mm-hmm.
And then me being a bit of a dick, and also being like, well, I don't know if I really want this relationship in my head and everything. I just didn't say anything. And she goes, "Oh, so you're not responding to that?" And then and she said, so you don't love me? And I said, maybe. I meant it somewhat as a joke, but also because just in my head I was like, well, do I really want to be in this relationship still? I mean, I know I want to go back to gaming and everything like that.
Yeah.
So she just got really pissed at that, and so she called it off. She said, "That's it, we're broken up." And then I go, and then we sort of just left it for about a day. But I was trying to get it back after that. I was emailing her because she blocked my number and everything. So I was just sending her a lot of emails telling her, like, I didn't know. It was kind of a lie, but I was telling her I didn't know that it was just a joke. I didn't really mean it. And then about after that day, she messaged me again and says, "Okay, we're going. Let's get back together," or something like that. The thing was, because we had effectively broken up. That happened on the Monday. Sorry, that thing where I messaged her maybe, that happened on the Monday, and so I thought we were effectively broken up on the Monday. And so, because that Monday night I went to her house and I talked to her and everything like that. And she said, "No, we're broken up. This is closure. This is it." I go, "Okay." And so then on the Tuesday, I actually made this appointment with that wing who I met online. I said, "Do you want to meet up on Saturday?"
Mm-hmm.
And then that was on Tuesday morning, and then Tuesday afternoon she messaged me and she said, "Do you want to go to the gym together tonight?" And then I said, "Okay." And then we ended up not going to the gym together, but it was effectively just saying, "Okay, let's sort of try again. Let's get back together. And then, when we got back together, I told her, I said that I know this is going to piss you off, but I made this appointment to go out to a nightclub on Saturday with this guy, and I said that I can't. I've already made a promise. I can't cancel it because I keep doing this to all the wings that I know. Like every time we're so close to break up, and then I make the appointment, and then eventually we come back together, and then I have to call it off, and then my wings get pissed off, and they just won't talk to me again. So I said, so I have to go at least, and I said, why don't you come with me? And then she got really, really pissed, and she said, and then she cried on the phone, and she said, I can't do this anymore, and then she just hung up. And she blocked my number and everything. And that was on Wednesday and Thursday. She just blocked my number. I couldn't contact her. And then finally, I kept trying to email her and everything like that. And finally, on Friday, she emailed me back. And I said that we need to meet to explain, to talk about all this stuff. And so I said I just need closure because now I was feeling really desperate. I was feeling really down and sad about the whole thing. And then on Friday night after work, we met up, and then we just basically, I told her my reasons for making that appointment and everything, and that I was just trying to be a good guy and trying to make sure that I don't break commitments and promises to my wings and things like that. And so she wasn't angry at me anymore, but she said, we can't get back together anymore. This is it. So at the time, I was okay. I was just kind of like, okay, cool. I can sort of get back to game in my head. I was sort of upset, but also I was like, well, there's also this other good side where I can go back out. And then Friday, I was by myself at home. I didn't arrange to meet up with anything, and that was really hard. I've always had this fear since before I did game where I would just spend time at home and eat a pizza by myself, play games, watch movies, and I was super lonely and just like hated myself. So I never wanted to do that again. So Friday was tough because that's exactly what I was doing again.
Yeah.
And then on Saturday, during the day, I wasn't hanging out with anyone. I went to the gym, but that was about it. And so I was messaging her each time. I was saying, look, I'm sorry, and I really miss you, blah, 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 blah. And like, I have no friends to talk to, so I don't know who to vent to, and I have to just vent to you. And so then she was messaging, and then so she unblocked my number, and then she started. She just said, "Okay, we're not getting back together, but I know that you have no friends, so I want to make this breakup easier for you."
Yeah.
So we sort of just messaged each other as it was leading up to me going out, and finally, as I was walking to the nightclub and then I lined up, I realized that I couldn't do it. It was just too tough, and that really just sort of turned the whole ball on me because it completely shattered my confidence in terms of me being able to do game again.
Yeah.
And so then I just had to turn around and walk back home, and that's where it just got really, really hard for me. Like last night was just so tough, and just made me question whether I can do game and stuff like that. Like I feel I need to go back to Vegas to really get back into the whole swing of things because I can't even approach anymore. I can't go out. Like it's just too hard. Like I've watched, like I've listened to my infield audio and things like that again, and like I remember all the stuff I've said, but I think that after a year and a half of not going out, I've got all of that like fear in me. And it's just like really scary.
Yeah, I think the main issue is a matter of expectations. It's always hard to go back to something because you expect yourself to be where you were previously. Yeah. When you try to relearn a skill set and you haven't done it in a while, then it feels that way. But like I said, it's not a skill set. It's within you. It's just, I mean, you just have to go out and actually execute on it. But when it comes to taking the first step, Like you have to lower your expectations. Like don't really have expectations when you go out. Like just taking a minor first step and then building on it from there. That's really the biggest key. I mean, actually, like yesterday, even if you reframe everything and you think about it like, oh, I actually went out yesterday, then you'd be like, oh, that's a good first step. The next thing I have to do is just go into the venue, and then after that, you just carry on from there. Whatever the next step you can do, like basically, the whole thing is like you show up and you do the best with where you're at. And I remember I was listening to this podcast recently, and it was this woman who was talking about the difference between excellence and perfectionism. Perfectionists, they want everything to go exactly as how they planned, and they're kind of neurotic about it, where they won't stop until that happens. Whereas people who strive for excellence, they're okay with what they're given. Like maybe they have to take they're racing like a mile race or something, and they wake up a little bit sick. Now, someone who's perfectionist, they will be driven crazy by that because they're like, oh, I won't be at my best. Like everything has to be controlled. Whereas someone who's striving for excellence will be like, well, I'm sick. I might as well just do the best I can. Maybe I won't get my personal record, but I can at least beat the person ahead of me. Like that's the best I can do in that moment. And so it's a matter of having a mindset for excellence instead of perfectionism. And I get the sense that you probably are in a more perfectionist mindset right now, where you're imagining how it's going to go, and you want everything to go exactly how you planned before you go out. Whereas someone who's just, if you're striving for excellence in the moment, you show up and you're like, maybe I'm going to suck. I'm not going to be as good as I was, but I'm just going to do the best I can tonight. Maybe I get rejected like 10 times in a row, but who cares? Like at least I'm out. So it's a matter of, because I think I talked about it before, where I talked about my experience with a meditation retreat and how I thought I was going to die, and that removed all expectations and obligations in my mind. And I came from this place of gratitude. Like everything that happens from here on out, I'm grateful for, because I didn't have any expectations of my life beyond that point. I was like, anything that happens is just a bonus. So it's kind of like that, where if you set the bar, like if I just show up, then fantastic. Now everything I do from here on out is just like a bonus. Like it's something that I've added on to it. So don't try to set like some sort of objective standard for yourself where you have to like get 3 phone numbers or something. Just basically like set yourself, well, the objective standard you should set for yourself is showing up. And then from there, you just do the best that you can. And it's process-oriented, not outcome-oriented at that point.
Yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Because, I think partly in the relationship, I was looking at it. I was a bit arrogant in the relationship because I was looking at it as if, because prior to meeting her, and coming back from Vegas, like I was doing really well. Like, I was pulling almost pretty much every weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't actually like sleeping with him, but like it was like the night before I actually went on a date. Had a date scheduled with Nu. This was when we were just sort of dating, not really official.
Yeah.
I actually called, and then using your method, I called, and then we slept together. And then I had to chuck her out because I knew that I needed to sleep because I needed to go and meet Nu the next day.
Yeah.
So because I was coming into the relationship feeling like I was really on fire, and then that's sort of the continuation I was expecting exiting the relationship. And because I had that sort of mindset throughout the relationship, I was arrogant in the sense that, well, she can easily be replaced because I was already so good before I met her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's where it can be pernicious when your ego is built up, and um, then you want to like immediately get that back. But it's a downward spiral, and the more you try to fight it, then the more difficult it is.
Yeah.
So, what other things have you been doing this week as well?
I've definitely been going to the gym almost every day. Today is the only day so far. It's about 12 o'clock here, but today's the only day I haven't gone to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually been doing pretty well. I'm not sure what weight I told you last time, but now I'm down to about 145 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
That's my morning weight before food and everything. But still got sort of lower belly fat, but I'm starting to be able to sort of see that my tummy is sort of flat, getting pretty flat. So, I mean, that's been pretty good. Aside from that, it's just been going to work and then having all this sort of stuff new.
Mm-hmm. Did you make a functional goal for yourself, for your health goal?
Also, for the functional health goal, I've started recording. I've actually started recording my reps and the length of my runs.
Mm-hmm.
And like my run, I usually do like at 7.5 kilometers per hour.
Okay.
On the treadmill. I'm not sure what that's in miles. I think it's about 4.6 or something miles per hour. I do that for half an hour, but I've slowly been upping that to about 8 kilometers per hour.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm actually like focusing, as you said, on specific goals rather than just losing weight or going to the gym.
Yeah.
I use an app now to actually record all my reps and stuff.
Okay. So that's good. Is there like a long-term goal? I guess, is your goal like mostly running, or is it a combination between running and weightlifting?
It's a combination of both because I want to look athletic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Like, the thing is, it still seems that your main focus is aesthetic, and it's hard to maintain the motivation over time. I mean, you can have that goal, but it can lead to bad habits in the long term, I think, because then you'll start doing exercises for the sake of looking more fit, but then that will lead to maybe not the most optimized workout plan. So, I mean, I generally find that if your goals are performance based, then they tend to be, number one, longer term, and then number two, they tend to be like healthier. Because I've just seen it's the difference between like a bodybuilder and a power lifter. A power lifter lifts for the purpose of lifting more weight, whereas the bodybuilder lifts purely for aesthetic purposes, and then they make like morally questionable decisions in the long term. I'm not saying that you're going to make morally questionable decisions, but possibly decisions that are questionable for your health. So I would encourage a more fitness-oriented mindset when it comes to goal setting and health.
Like taking a hobby.
Well, not necessarily, but like you said, with the running, like my functional running goal at one point was to break 5 minutes for the mile, and then that carried me through that. I mean, by doing that, I did so many other auxiliary things that led me to a greater level of fitness. And then as a result, I had a good looking body, but it wasn't my goal to necessarily have a good looking body. It was just a result of that. So it's a matter of functionality in accordance with the way you look. But yeah, I'd say like having a goal for running, and then also if you're lifting as well, then having a goal for that too, a long-term goal.
that's to say that if you enjoy doing those things, like what if you don't actually enjoy doing stuff to begin with?
See, that's also so. Usually, if you have a functional goal, then you'll enjoy it more. Like if you're lifting and you're exercising purely just for the looks, like you're not going to enjoy it. That's why people fall out. That's why people end up giving up on those goals, like their New Year's resolution goals, where they said they're going to lose X amount of pounds. Typically, what happens is like they'll work really hard in the first month, and then they'll lose some weight and feel really good about themselves and feel like they've earned the right to eat and cheat a little bit more. And then they end up relapsing into their previous lifestyle. Whereas people who are more functionally oriented, they tend to actually acquire a taste for fitness. And then they also sustain that lifestyle over a longer period of time. Because for me, I hated running for a while, but I was forced to do it for 4 years. And then my goals were functionally oriented, because that's just the nature of running cross country, is like you set time goals for yourself. But as a result, I became addicted to that, and then I acquired a taste for fitness. And it's carried me through in the long term too. It also makes you like more mentally tough. It makes you, it definitely sharpens your motivation, because you set a goal for yourself and you strive for it. And it's different from the weight loss goal I found. Although I've done that in the past too, and it's worked, but I've just found that functionally oriented goals are better.
Okay.
But it is good that you're tracking your workouts, though. That is good. Like, I definitely think that's requisite to make progress in the long term. So the other dimension that we were focused on was the social part, right?
Yeah.
And so, aside from last night, like, what else have you done?
I haven't really. To be honest, I know that we had all those goals from last time, but I knew that really what's hindering me in this entire thing was, sort of at that point in time, was my relationship with Nu, because we were already sort of in some sort of difficulty, and until that sort of relationship was cleared up or resolved or fixed, I couldn't quite clearly develop a goal, because I couldn't see where I would be in the future, or at least in the short-term future. So now that I know that things, like, whilst I'm still longing for the relationship and everything like that, and I've been still trying to message her and stuff like that. I think it's now easier, much clearer on taking like concrete goals. Like, for example, as you mentioned, just turning up to the nightclub. Maybe that's like a goal one. And then the next week can be like actually walking in. And then after that can actually be maybe saying hi to one girl and then leaving, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual things that I actually feel I can do now, I can actually work on this stuff.
Yeah, I don't think that's actually true. I think a lot of times we feel like we have to do something first before we can start working on something. And this has been true in my life too. Like, sometimes I feel like, oh, I have to move to another place. Like, I have to move to Thailand to work on my business. But the truth is, I could just start working on it now. And same sort of thing with pickup. It's like you want to wait until you go do immersion or something. But the truth is, you could just do the same thing. I mean, something similar right now where you are, and just go out consistently and find people to go out with you and create a similar culture, even though it might not be the same intensity, but you can still make progress on your own. And it's all coming from within. That's really what it is. And yeah, it's been, I mean, it's a continual pattern for most people. It depends on whether you're motivated externally or internally. And if you're externally motivated by things, that's when things become ephemeral. They don't last long. It's the same sort of thing with the weight loss thing. But it's like, if you're externally motivated, then you're more reactive to what the world throws at you, and you won't be motivated long term to do something. If you're internally motivated, that means no matter what circumstances you're given, then you're going to make the best of it. Like, you're going to actually take action, even though it might be a shitty circumstance. Like I was talking about last time, where I set that intention to talk to 10 girls, I think, that one day when I was in London and it was raining outside. And I thought to myself, well, I mean, if I'm able to do it tonight, then I'm able to do it anytime. Like, if I know that if I make it through tonight, then I can do it anytime in the future. Like, I'll have that faith in myself. So that's the thing, is like, especially now, when you're most emotionally vulnerable, if you're able to actually take action, then you can have that confidence to know that in the future, no matter what circumstance you're given, you can still take action. And that's really what it comes down to. It's kind of like when they talk about what courage is, it's not the absence of fear, it's having the fear and then going through with it anyway. And that's the point where you're at right now. It's like you actually have an advantage in terms of the amount of development that you could have right now, because you're at your most emotionally vulnerable state. It's your opportunity to develop yourself the most. If you're able to make it through this situation, then in the future you're going to be that much emotionally stronger to take action when you face a lot of adversity. You're going to be that much more emotionally resilient. So you have to like reframe things in those terms. So yeah, when things get really hard, that's your time to actually make the most progress. And I'd say what I'd recommend, I mean, you got the general idea of like the kind of like baby stepping your way through progress, but I would make it a little bit more rapid. I would push yourself a little bit more. So I would say set a time, like I'd say like half an hour or maybe like 10 minutes even to start, of the amount of time you're going to spend at the venue. And maybe you up it by 5 minutes every day. Or you do like 10, 15, 20, and you do 20 for a couple of days. Then you do 25, 30 or something. Like, devise some sort of plan for yourself. I tend to be like really aggressive when it comes to my goal setting. And so I remember like when I jump into things, I make it really hard because I like that. But you also have to make it attainable too. There's a balance to it. You want to make it challenging though. Like, don't discount yourself. And most likely you can do more than you think. So what do you think would be a reasonable goal for yourself in terms of the social side?
I'm thinking this Tuesday, I've made plans with a former wing to go out and day game. Yeah.
So what day is it there right now?
It's Sunday.
Sunday, okay. Are there venues like every day of the week where you are?
Not that I know of.
What days are the venues open?
On Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and even Sunday.
Okay. What I'd say is, like, go to that venue tonight and spend some time in there. Your goal is just...
Alone?
Yeah, just alone. And just spend... I would say, like, you could do half an hour. Like, that's what I started with when I was going out alone. I did this challenge where I did 30 days alone for at least half an hour a day. And I grew so much from that. And for me, I set I had to open a certain number of sets. But for you just starting out, just set that time limit for yourself. You could put a time on your phone or whatever. And often just like feel like reacclimate yourself to the environment. You know, if you want to sit down, then sit down. And just focus on the way you feel. Just relax. And this will help you, and it'll help you prepare for Tuesday as well. Like, that's the thing is like if you keep waiting for other people to join up with, then you're going to still be stuck in that mindset where you're going to put too much pressure in that moment, instead of just like taking action on it now. Because this is what I was talking about. It's like instead of externally focusing, you can focus internally and do things on your own instead of having to rely on other people. So yeah, I'd say like half an hour. And if you feel like talking to someone, then by all means talk to them. If you don't, then it's nothing to be too disappointed about. Like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. But I think that's a reasonable thing you can do.
Okay.
Yeah, just like enjoy your time in the venue, walk around, and yeah, if you feel like making small talk or sitting down, whatever. And on Monday, so you're gonna do day game on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say on Monday, just do like 3 opens.
Just during the day?
Yeah, during the daytime. If there's nothing during the nighttime, then just go out and talk to 3 people.
Okay.
And just don't go home until you do it. It's going to be hard. Well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe it won't be hard. Like don't put in your head that it's going to be hard. Like there might be a little bit of emotional resistance, but don't worry about it. Like just do it.
So, like, what would qualify as an approach?
Just
saying hi?
Yeah, just say anything. Yeah, that's it. And you can make small talk or whatever.
Okay.
And so what's around you? Are you near the beach or are you near malls or something?
I'm actually, I'm located in 2 places. If I go to where my sort of where I rent, then it's in the city.
Yeah.
So there's quite a lot. It's basically a lot of foot traffic down below.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm in the suburbs, if I was to stay home, because my work is actually nearer to my parents' place, sometimes I stay at home.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's in the suburbs, so I have to actually go to like the supermarket or the store to actually do an approach.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Are there any landmarks around where you are?
Any parks?
Any landmarks or parks, like historical landmarks or touristy places?
Yes, there is.
Oftentimes, like those are easier places to get started because people are looking to just spend time. Whereas if you go to a mall or something, then people are there to shop, and sometimes they'll be more dismissive. But if you're at a park or a historical landmark where people are just kind of milling about, spending time, then it's a lot easier to talk to people. So keep that in mind too. And yeah, I mean, you should be able to do that. Like, I have no doubt that you'll be able to do that within the next 2 days. And that way, like, going into Tuesday, I mean, you'll be more at ease and relaxed. And this person on Tuesday, you just met him online?
This guy I've known for a little while. I've actually known him for about 2 years.
Okay. And then have you been, like, staying in touch with him or going out with him at all?
Yeah, so prior to Vegas, we did night game for about 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously I went to Vegas, came back, and then my game completely changed. And he was like, "Holy shit!"
Yeah.
Yeah. He was like, "Oh my god, you got to teach me what's going on." and then it was there. Like I actually, I called to go, and he wasn't there, but his friend was with me.
Yeah.
this one night. I pulled a girl in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And then he told me after, he was asking me after, he was like, so what happened? And I was like, did you sleep with her? And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, holy shit. It's crazy.
It's funny.
Like, I reckon that's what built up all that expectation, because I'm
Yeah.
like in my head thinking about all those high intensity moments, and like there was another time where I pulled a girl and it was with two other guys, but we pulled 3 girls back to their place,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would what's the drug that you smoke? Is it marijuana?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were doing marijuana, so I did it as well. That was the first time I did drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But like we were making out and I was like fingering her and everything like that. And then, but I think there was a lot of LMR, and like my game is obviously, even at that stage, it wasn't like the best of everyone. I still had my sticking points. So I was struggling to surpass that LMR. But in the club and everything, I was fingering her and we were like making out like a lot.
Yeah.
So that was another time, and that was, I think, the week before I actually did that 15-minute pull.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay, so there's like a lot of expectation.
yeah, there's a lot of expectations, and I think that's why this guy kind of respects me, because he's kind of seen that I went from like sort of similar game to him, just doing like predator approaches where you just turn your head in like club and you're just kind of like scanning the room for targets.
Yeah.
To like just having fun, like that's like, as you said, listening to comedians and just writing your field reports what went funny, and then just making yourself laugh. And that's what I was doing after Vegas.
Right.
I was doing a lot of videos, and then I was just like laughing at myself, and then that's what actually got me to do all this sort of stuff. And then he saw that, and so I think and then also he's seen my girlfriend, or my ex, and I think because of all that, because I don't think he's still a virgin, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but that's the history with him.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, just don't let the past get in the way either when you show up on Tuesday. Like, I've had that happen too, where I feel like I have to prove myself, because when I come back to LA, people know that, oh, you're an immersion coach, like, you've obviously changed since you're back here. But sometimes I'm like, I feel the same. And then if I get in the mindset where I feel like I have to prove myself, then I start to suck really badly. And they're like, oh, I thought you were an immersion coach. I'm like, I am, but I don't know, I'm trying too hard. So don't run into that trap either. Just have a good time. Like mostly, like that should be the case all the time when you go out, is focus on having a good time. And that's why I like the people in the AGL group in particular, is that when we went out in Thailand, we were always just focused on just like making each other laugh and things like that. Like that was the main focus, and having just having a good time in general. That's what games should be about. It shouldn't just strictly be about like exactly what to do, like having perfect technique or anything like that. A lot of times your technique will be really sloppy, but it's just about like having fun anyway. Like sometimes I've made very counterintuitive decisions, but it was for the sake of having a better experience. At the end of the day, it's always better to do it that way, for me anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'd say like bring that back to where you write down like 3 things that made you laugh when you do go out.
Okay.
Just to get back in that mindset. Even when you go out and you don't do approaches, like let's say you went out tonight, you're just there for half an hour, you didn't talk to anyone, but then think about funny things and then write it down or something.
Okay.
Get your mind back into that sort of playful mindset.
Okay. So should I do like a field report every time I at least go out to attend the game?
Yeah. Yeah, and your field report should be mostly focused on like what was fun or funny about certain situations. Don't focus as much on technique.
Okay.
I've just noticed that's how the most natural people that I've seen, how they write field reports. Like when they write field reports, it's not even really a field report. It's like a journal about like crazy stupid shit that they did over the course of the night, or funny things that they said, and that's just the way they think. Like I remember Kevin, he said that he was going to start writing field reports, and he would just write like funny things he did or said. And I'm like, dude, I don't know if that's a field report, but whatever works. Like, but that's why like he's so good with girls, is because he's focused on like that sort of thing. He's not focused on what he did right or wrong technically. It's mostly just about like, oh, I said this, that was funny, or I did this, that was funny. So start thinking like that.
I know you mentioned not to focus on technique, but one thing I wanted to brush up with you again. I probably got it in my notes, but I've got a lot of like game notes that I wrote in immersion about about your method in terms of what you actually do. I know that initially, like you obviously open the door first.
Yeah.
And I remember that you do like compliance testing. So like one thing I learned from you is that and one thing I learned from my own sort of looking at my own infield is that I pull, like I sort of lead way too late. So I'll open her and then she'll like show interest and stuff like that, IOIs.
Yeah.
Then I'll kind of just keep talking, and then that sort of just makes the whole thing not exciting, and it just drifts off.
Yeah.
Whereas if I like, the first thing is you open and you pummel with questions, you just like, I remember you also told me that you just like sort of ignore what she says and you just keep you ask questions and just pummel her with like a lot of observations and comments, and then after that, then you compliance test by trying to like put her under like leading her like that, and you like, come meet my friends, and then you lead her to the dance floor, and then that's when you do that thing where you put her hands on your shoulder, and then that's when you sort of dance for like a minute or so, and you go in for like a kiss. That's when you start to sexually escalate. I mean, that's sort of what I remember. And I also remember you saying that like when you want to go out, if you want to leave the venue, you're just like, come on, let's get out of here. And then she might say, I can't, my friend. Like, it's like, oh, it's only a couple of minutes if you get your stamp. We'll be back in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So, like, are you able to run through that again?
Yeah, I mean, you pretty much said everything. Like, that was it. Like, it's very simple. I have changed my mindset on it, but I've done, like, it's pretty much the same exact thing I used to do. Like, the actions are the same, but the mindset's different for each of the actions. So like I said before, most of it is about being shameless. Like, that's most of game. And I think I talked about it last time in terms of the verbal part of it, where I said usually shameless people don't qualify themselves. And the solution isn't to stop qualifying yourself. The solution is to be less shameful. Like, it's treating the cause, not the symptoms. The same thing applies for actions that you take. So when you talked about how you're talking too much and not just going for it, that comes from the place of shamelessness. Like, I told Kevin about how I used him as an example of being shameless, and he's like, dude, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Like, call me shameless? Like, well, you asked for my shirt back after you gifted it to me, so pretty shameless there. But yeah, so a lot of it is just being shameless, and when it comes to the physical action, when you feel like there's a connection there and you want to move it forward, then just go for it. Like, just take your hand and start walking. Like, there's no hesitation necessary. It could be a non sequitur. Like, you don't have to segue into it. You could just immediately do it. And so that's like the moving part. Yeah.
Yeah. That's coming back to me, because I remember just in my last gaming sessions, that's where I literally just was like, "Oh, come on, let's go."
Yeah.
Just move without even thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, it just happens automatically. Like, I don't even think of the method anymore, but I still find myself doing the same sorts of things, but it's coming from a different mindset. Um, and so, yeah, when it comes to moving, or anytime you make a physical move like that, whether it's like moving or kissing or whatever, like it comes from that place of shamelessness. You're just going for it. And that's the key thing is like don't feel the need to qualify yourself, like give a reason or don't feel the need to explain yourself. Because a lot of times what guys will do, they'll be like, hey, let's go check out this place. I heard it's really nice. Like they'll add on something extra. You don't have to do that. Same sort of thing with going for a kiss. They'll be like, oh, like I kind of want to kiss you right now. Like they'll try to feel like they had to justify it. Um, Actually, like
So
my last student was doing that, and it was working for him actually because I think because he's like a really good looking guy, he has like high value. So by supplicating himself a bit, it actually helps him. But um, but actually, like yeah, if you're Asian, then a lot of times the opposite is true, where you can get away with being more aggressive. So I feel like it's an advantage. It's easier being Asian sometimes, and it depends on like how you look at it. I mean, it's a matter of it's just different. It's not a matter of like harder or easier. It's like you're choosing different characters in RPG. Like they have different attributes, so you just have to work with the attributes you're given. That comes
okay,
back to the whole excellence versus perfectionism thing. It's like doing what you can with what you have instead of trying to change everything. Yeah, going back to the method. So yeah, moving shamelessly. I think it comes down to really just like two things, like the shamelessness of doing it in the moment, and then the way you deal with the reaction to it. And that's it. Like
okay,
if she reacts poorly to it, then just be calm and cool about it. Like maintain your composure, and you can either like change the topic or change the topic and try again later, or maybe just calmly addressing her objections and then trying again. It's one of those derivatives of that same essential principle of maintaining your composure and then just sorting it out. Like that's your mindset. Is like I'm just a problem solver. I'm trying to like I. It's clear that we like each other. What's the best possible solution for us to what's the best possible logistical solution for us for this to happen, basically.
so like if she gives a bad reaction, what did you say those two options I could do?
It's not really just two options, but the whole principle is just maintain your composure. But the two, I guess, like if you did put into two options like I did before, it would be like addressing your objections and then keep going forward with it, or you just drop it and then try again later. But but don't necessarily compartmentalize it. Like be fluid with it. It's more about the way you feel in the moment. Are you calm about it? Are you composed? Or are you anxious? And do you feel ashamed of doing this? Be aware of how you feel more than the how part of it.
I yeah, okay,
Like when you write your field reports, take note of how you're feeling in that moment. Like, were you ashamed of going for the poll, or was it coming from a place of just like I don't give a fuck, like I'm just gonna go for it? Um, so yeah, just having that self awareness is I think essential for long term improvement, because that's what's causing the actions. You could do the whole cover up thing where you're just like you're you're just going through the motions because someone told you to, but that won't result in anything that will be long lasting change.
okay.
So it's better to work on the emotional side.
So and then in terms of the method, so there's the open, and then that's when you just pummel her with questions and stuff like that, right? Like
Yeah,
you
I
just
wouldn't worry so much about the method. Like I wouldn't worry about that part of it.
But then, because I find it's, especially since I'm getting into it again, it's hard to. I get what you're saying about the shamelessness and everything, but it's hard to be able to adopt those behaviors without having sort of a template on what to do first.
Yeah. The issue is if you're going to go in with a template, though, like the other person's going to feel it because they're going to feel objectified. If you go in with a script or some sort of pre-planning, then you're going to create a glass ceiling for yourself. Like you will get results, but it won't be long-lasting change. This is why we have to go through this process again of rebuilding your quote-unquote game. If it was like a deeper, long-lasting change, then you wouldn't have as many issues with this. So it wouldn't be like it's more like I'm focusing on a deeper level change this time. That way the changes will be longer lasting. And it'll be more permanent. So you can, the whole point is being comfortable with not knowing what's going to happen. That's the key. That's the true key to confidence. Is if you're willing, like the whole thing is like if you're willing to embrace the fact that you don't know what's going to happen, then that's where the confidence comes from. It's not from having a plan and going in with a plan. It's knowing that whatever situation you're going into is unknown, but you have the composure to deal with any situation that arises. So maybe you go in there, you can't really think of anything to say, but that's fine though. Like you just have to go with that. It's definitely going to result in more randomness and awkwardness at first, but this will be more permanent change in the long run.
But then couldn't it be that you would initially approach it from a more, I'm not discounting about being shameless and everything. That's like the overriding attitude that you work towards. But then if I go in there, it's harder to sort of speak to them when I'm not even sure. And like being comfortable with that is another thing. But like I feel it's easier to evolve into the sort of overall mindset way of doing game if I have just a general sort of steps to follow initially, and then I'm able to be like, okay, now I can see, like that's how it sort of worked for me in Vegas as well, because I initially was like just clueless, and then my first session with you, we broke it down into, okay, do this, this, and this, and then after that I was like, oh, okay, and then it just started transforming into how I actually did things, and then you were also giving me tips like when the girl's walking away, and I still remember this, like if you sort of open the girl and then she's walking away, and then you kind of like say, oh, quick question before you go, or you say, or something like that. That's like, I don't know what you called it, but I remember that's a good way to sort of get them to turn back and just hear you one more time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it is easier, but it's not better. And like I said, it's going to put a glass ceiling on your interactions. Like it's going to be more difficult in the long run to unlearn, memorize, like not necessarily memorizing things, but having a structure in your mind. The whole point is when it comes down to human interaction, especially with women, it's emotionally based. Like you have to start seeing the world from their perspective, and that's when you start making actual, like, genuine progress with it. Is you have to be able to communicate on their level, like understand the communication from their point of view, and it's it's different from the way we look at it. It's not structural and it's not compartmentalized into different parts. The thing is, like, once you learn this different way of doing things, it's going to look similar to how it did before, except it's going to be more sustainable. Like, you're going to look the way you did in the infield, except it's going to actually have more life to it. And this is something that when I took a boot camp from Derek last December, and they were telling me this, they're like you obviously have like very polished game, but it's very robotic. Like there's no artistry to it. There's no life to it. Like it looks like you just practice these moves and you can still pull, but at the end of the day, it's not about that. It's about the creativity you bring to it, and the openness to spontaneity, and the composure to deal with unpredictable situations. That's what it really comes down to. And it is a scarier thing to do, but at the end of the day, it's going to be way more beneficial to get to shift the mindset. Now, I understand the tendency is still going to be like, you're still probably, like, don't beat yourself up if you do go back to what you did. Well, I shouldn't give you permission to do so, but most likely what's going to happen is, like, once you do start opening, you're going to start reverting back to what you did before. But then it might not be as effective, because what you don't realize is what you did before, the reason why it was working is because of the confidence from the background. Like, you built up that confidence in the method, and that was like the inner part of it that I'm basically like trying to cut to the chase here and go straight to the inner part of it, which is the composure that you had.
But if that worked, can't we just do that again?
I mean, you could do it again, but it's not going to be sustainable. You're going to enter into a relationship the same way that you did in this instance. Like, you're going to end up at the same point you are now. Because if you made genuine change, the way you deal with relationships would have been different. The way you would have acted in the relationship would have been different. Because you would have had a more permanent emotional resilience, where you could have dealt with certain minor situations in the relationship that I can't teach you. I can't teach you those things on a microscopic level every step of the way. Like, you would have to memorize a ridiculous amount of things. Like, that's just not how human interaction works. There's an inherent randomness to it that's unpredictable, and it comes from the emotional side that you can't model. So I think that's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
It depends on how you want to look. Like, I honestly think that some of the friends that are closest to me, like the guys in the AGL group, I think a lot of times, like, their game is better than Todd's, just because Todd is so robotic sometimes. Like, when we were going out, even Todd said this himself, like, when him and Yosef went on a double date, and Todd was like, Yosef's game was better than mine. It was just because Yosef was, like, so free-flowing, and it felt like he wasn't trying that much, whereas Todd was, like, having to try. Like, that's the difference between, like, when you get, I don't want to say, like, a certain level, but it's, like, that's the fine line between the emotional side of it and memorizing things or modeling things. You feel it on a deeper level. So for me, it wouldn't be authentic to me if I were to reteach you all the lines and everything, just because I know the path that leads down, and it just won't be the same. You won't be like, I don't know. My goal is to create a more natural sort of mindset, and it just feels different. It might look the same from the outside, but it feels different at the end of the day. And it's a longer process. It's a little bit more difficult sometimes, but sometimes it's easier. Like, once you get it, and it's way easier. because you don't have to think of so much, and you have more fun.
So then, essentially, what do I do then? So, like, as in, what, like, what would I need to do to from an open to a close?
Yeah.
Well, like, I know you said like be shameless and don't qualify yourself.
Well, I mean, you have to take it like one step at a time. You're not at that place right now. Like the first thing that you do is go to the bar for half an hour. Like that's just what we set out to do. Like you have to take things one step at a time. So that's the issue. I mean, that's probably why you psyched yourself out last night, is because you're thinking like 10 steps ahead. Just think one step at a time, and we'll take it from there. Because you're going to learn, you're going to start feeling things and learning things, and it's going to be different from how you did it before because you just had a different wealth of experience than you did before. And you're at a different place right now than you were before. Like you've just come out of a relationship. So you just have to be more present with it, like be more adaptive and flexible when it comes to making progress. Because if you try to pre-plan everything in advance, it's just not going to work. Like you're going to start to stifle yourself because you're thinking too far ahead. I remember Tai Lopez had this analogy where he talks about climbing up a rock face that's 100 feet tall. And let's say you're halfway up, you're 50 feet up. Now, if you look 50 feet up to the top, then you're going to be intimidated by the height of the rock face. If you look all the way down, you're going to be intimidated by the fall. Now, if you look like 3 feet around you, then you can continue to climb. And so right now, you just have to look 3 feet around you. Just look at the next step and just take it from there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I don't know. I get what you're saying. I feel being able to just sort of know, just to bring back the knowledge that I had before. Not to. And I know what you're saying.
But it's already there though. Like you already have it inside of you. We've already built up that intuition. The thing is, what ends up happening is if you have the right emotions matched up to whatever your intuition is, the things that came before, like the things that you're able to do before, is just going to naturally come up again. You're not going to have to think about it as much as you think. But if you try to force your way into it, it's not going to happen as easily. But if you relax your way into it, then it's going to come back. Like that's what happens to me when I go out. I don't think of the method. I'm not like, oh, this is my game plan for tonight. I'm like, oh, how am I going to have fun? Like, how am I going to essentially like relax my way into this? And then I start taking the right actions. Then it's like a video game where things pop up from my memory. I'm like, oh shit, like, oh, I should do this. But I'm not even thinking about it. I have those habits ingrained within me. And I trust myself to just do the proper action. If I don't do the right action, I say, oh shit, I should have done this, but whatever. I don't beat myself up about it. I let it go. I take the lesson from it and then move on.
You've had 3 years of doing it, like, and consistently doing it, where I had 1 month of sort of just in-depth training.
I mean, that doesn't matter either. Like the length of time doesn't matter either. Like the same sort of thing was happening to me before, even when I wasn't going out that much. Even my past experience was building upon itself if I hadn't gone out for a while. And this was before 3 years of experience. Like it just comes back. And if you psych yourself out, I think that's the main thing, is like you have this fear inside of you. Just have that confidence. Like maybe, like I kind of, when it comes to this now, I have this absurd level of confidence that'll just come back to me. Like when Ashkan has the same sort of neurotic mentality that you do. He's like, do you ever go out and you feel like you have to get back into it and you have to sharpen your skill set and you feel like you haven't gone out for a while, so it's tough. And I'm like, well, I didn't think about it until now, but No, I don't think about that at all. Like I feel like I feel like exactly how I was 6 months ago, and I just trust myself that I'm just going to do what I used to do. And if you come in with that mindset, you don't psych yourself out. You're actually doing the opposite. You're you're empowering yourself with confidence, and it's all about the mindset and the emotional state you come at it with. Like if you trust yourself and you're composed and you have the confidence that it'll come back, then it's going to come back. But if you tell yourself, I don't trust myself, I have to like rememorize all these lines, then it's probably not going to happen because you're fighting it.
Okay.
So the biggest thing right now though is focusing on how to get relaxed again in the venue. That's why just go out for 30 minutes. Like, don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you feel like talking to someone, then by all means do it. But the first step is just taking the action, like setting foot in the venue and being there for a bit.
I'll make a deal with you that I'll follow what you say and not as you described, and then we'll discuss it in the next session. The next time when I come back from doing that, and you can we can discuss sort of the pros and cons of how I feel about it. So I'm not rejecting what you're saying.
I mean that's part of the coaching as well. Like when you pay someone for coaching, generally you're borrowing their confidence and their skills and their knowledge for a little bit, like a temporary period of time. Like when I usually pay for coaching, I typically I fully immerse myself in that person's method. I just don't question it. I'm like, whatever. I'm just gonna fully experience it and see if it's for me, and take from it like what I've learned from it. Because when it came to like the Derek boot camp, I took a lot of things from it. There's some things that I disagreed with. I still practiced. And it took me maybe like 6 months of practicing it. And then I realized, oh wait, maybe that part wasn't for me. But 80% of it was really good for me. But it's just certain things that I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily agree with this part of it. Same thing with Luke. Like I fully learned Luke's style, and I liked it because it was so different. But it's coming from a different place from where I wanted it to come from. So that's why I've changed and adapted it for myself, like my own value system. But I've taken a lot away from it because I just fully jumped in. Like I like to experiment with things, and I like to hear very different perspectives on things because I'll borrow that I'll fully empathize with that person's experience and then see what parts of it are for me by experiencing it myself, not by logical discussion, but through experience.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's ultimately up to you, like what you want to do. Like that's typically my approach when I'm a student. Is I just I fully jump in, and I'm like, this seems kind of weird, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. Like the first time Frank coached me, he's kind of a wacky guy, and sometimes he does morally questionable things. But I literally I treated him like a drill sergeant. Like whatever he told me, I was just gonna do immediately, and ended up helping me a lot because his personality is so different from mine that I learned so much from the experience.
I'll do as you say. As in,
yeah.
I trust what you're saying, and I trust that you're doing it because you've coached me before, and it's given me results. So I'm trusting what you're saying. I suppose the only reason why I have that tendency to want to go back to what you coached me before is because I've seen that's worked.
Yeah.
I know that you're coming from a different angle now for longevity and for long-term growth. And so if you believe that's better, I'll follow that.
Okay. Yeah, and then instead of waiting until next week, just write on the group chat, write a short field report or something, or update how it went.
Okay.
But definitely engage more in that. you definitely need to post somewhere, whether it's that group on Facebook or the group chat.
Okay.
Because we need to be able to provide feedback for you. And then introduce yourself on the group chat too. Just do that immediately after this call. Write an introductory post where you introduce yourself and write a little bit about yourself and your current situation.
Okay.
And then, do you remember the 4 questions from last time? So it was like, do the one thing, or what's the one thing you did today? What's the one thing you're going to do tomorrow? And then what are you grateful for? And then whether you visualized or did affirmations. And now you have a plan for what you're going to do tonight and also tomorrow. So you can answer those questions once you come back from the venue tonight.
So the affirmations bit, that's about just visualizing something positive.
So for me, it's when I have a certain goal in mind, I'll visualize that. So it's a very specific, particular goal.
Okay. And what's your opinion about heading back to Vegas again?
What's that? What did you say?
What's your opinion on going back and doing Vegas again for a month?
I mean, it's up to you. Like, when would you go?
I haven't booked anything yet, but obviously I have to work it out with my boss and things like that. But I'm hoping either late this year or sometime early next year.
Yeah. I mean, right now I wouldn't worry about it too much. Like, let's get through the month first, and then see what progress you make. If you want to do it for yourself, then I'm not going to stop you. Like, you could go ahead and do it. But I think right now it's more useful to focus on the present moment, like what's controllable right now. Just because I think a lot of times when you set plans for the future, then you start obsessing about the future, and then you also will use that as an excuse to not try as hard in the moment. So I'm not gonna like say yes or no either way, but what I do, like regardless of whether you choose to go or not, just give 100% right now, and take the proper actions right now to do the best you can in the moment. And I'd say for me, my opinion on that is irrelevant, because that's ultimately your decision.
Okay.
Yeah. Because I think wherever you are, whether you go or not, you can make significant progress either way.
Do you also, just with going out tonight, can I substitute that with doing 3 approaches during the day? Just because I'm a bit tired. I mean, I know that could be interpreted as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that because you go full out. I mean, probably I should go out tonight. I'm just because I suppose I never really go out on a Sunday. But if I did 3 approaches, just say, because I need to go out to grab some stuff later. If I did 3 approaches.
That should be fine. As long as you do something, like that's the biggest thing. Like you know your schedule better, so. But it just has to be something like as challenging and also that will help you progress towards your goal.
Okay.
Do you have any other questions?
Have you ever had clients who fear that they're getting too old to do this sort of stuff?
I don't think so. No, I haven't.
Because all your clients are pretty young.
No, like actually some of my clients have been pretty old, like in their 30s, or in their 40s. But I don't think I've ever had one that felt like they're too old. I even had a wing in LA that was in his 50s, but he felt too old in certain venues, but we would still go out to other venues. Like when we went to College Town, we went to Fullerton. He felt like because his daughter's like 21, so he's like, I can't be here. Like it feels weird because my daughter's older than most of these girls. So, but yeah, I've never had that fear really, or I've never had clients with that fear. I don't think so. Maybe it's come up. I can't remember though.
Okay.
But yeah, it shouldn't be an issue with you. Like you're pretty young, so.
I feel because I'm 30, 31, so I kind of feel like I'm getting to that.
Yeah, you're not really that old. Like Ashkon's 33 and he still goes out really hard. So
What's he doing?
what's he doing? He's still in Vegas. I don't really know what he's doing. Yeah. But yeah, I think. Do you have any last questions?
No, that makes sense.
Okay.
So just keep doing those 3 approaches, like throughout the week as well, like on Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. Yeah, make sure to keep us posted on what happens today, tomorrow, and Tuesday, and then by default, like do those 3 approaches if nothing else, but update us, and then we can come up with different goals throughout the week.
Okay. Also, next week, I'm going on a business trip, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll be leaving on Friday night,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm coming back on the Saturday the next weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'll probably be pretty like jet lagged and everything from it. So, I suppose I'll let you know during the week about next Sunday.
Okay.
On next Saturday for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just let me know and keep me posted. Where are you going for your trip?
I'm going to Korea.
Okay. Nice.
So, yeah, I'm going to South Korea for a week, and then
That should be
I
good.
can do any approaching there because they might not know how to speak English.
That's okay. I think it might be actually a good thing. Like it's always easier in a foreign country, typically. So you could try it, see what happens.
Okay.
Korean girls are kind of weird though. I'm not gonna lie, but it should be fun.
Why did you say that?
No, I've just had weird experiences with Korean girls. Yeah, not 100% of them, but a lot of them.
I always feel that they're really hot or really ugly. They're either hot or ugly.
Yeah, I remember Fergal says that they have big faces, but I think he might be in Korea actually. Maybe you can meet up with him.
Is he on the?
Yeah, he's on the group chat.
Okay.
He's funny. He's from Ireland. He's like, he comes off as like a little bit nerdy at first, but then he's actually pretty alpha. And then he also has an online business and he travels the world and it's pretty cool. So
Okay.
he does online marketing.
Yeah, a lot of people are doing that, like the e-commerce type stuff and advertising on Facebook.
Yeah, he does affiliate marketing. He's been doing it for like 5 or 6 years, I think, before he came to Vegas. Because he was a student like 2 years ago, I think. Like this was right after I became a coach. And then I went to Thailand with him this year. But yeah, like I think he might be in Korea. You can meet up with him. I think it'll be a good time.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Cool.
Sweet. So make sure to post immediately after this, introducing yourself. And then, yeah we'll talk. It's a couple weeks from now or before that?
Probably just delay next week, and then we'll continue the week after that.
All right, sounds good.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
bye.
Cool. See ya.